The Bradley armored vehicle inched its way onto the bridge. 3 soldiers, Americans, young with everything to live for, crouched low as they followed their eyes on an old woman. Bullets from the Iraqi guns on the far side of the river pinged off the side of the vehicle and the steel grinders of the bridge. The soldiers kept coming, risking their lives with every step, braving the enemy's gun, all for the life of an elderly Iraqi woman huddled in the gun smoke. The officer in charge tossed a smoke grenade with 3 Americans ran forward to pull the woman to safety. Captain Chris Carter, at the ripe old age of 31, was the company commander. He ordered his men to retreat, carrying the woman, while he gave cover fire with an M16. On March 31st, 2003, Captain Chris Carter and his men acted courageously on a bridge somewhere south of Baghdad. They were not merely brave, but courageous, risking their lives for a defenseless woman in danger from bullets of her own nation's army. I read this story, there are a number of things that kind of come over me. And number one is courage. True courage, right? Not courage in the way in which our society pretends courage is these days. As the story said, somewhere on a bridge south of Baghdad. Courage is something that you do even when no one's watching, right? No one was watching these young men stare down bullets, continue to move forward for who? For the life of another, a woman they did not know, but they knew that it was right and noble to move forward and to sacrifice their lives for the life of another. Were these men fearless? Maybe. Were these men afraid? Maybe. And the reason I say that is I want to read this to you. Courage is not a feeling of fearlessness. This is important. It's rather the willingness of mind to necessarily act out of conviction rather than feeling. One may actually feel quite fearless and act cowardly. Also, one may feel fearful, but also act courageously. Courage is the willingness to deny my own flesh and act right and noble, no matter the cost. And that's what these men did. They did what was right and noble, and they didn't care what the cost was. And I'm going to leave you with this, okay? Courage is the first and greatest element of character. Merely knowing what is chaste and honest and true, that's not enough. It takes courage to act on virtue. Courage is also the agent that summons every other virtue into action in the face of temptation and crisis. We can have all the head knowledge in the world, right? We can have all the head knowledge in the world, but we need courage to act. And courage is trained into us, right? You have to train for courage. Yes, it is a conviction, it is a commitment, but those convictions and commitments do not come naturally to us. We are not naturally courageous. I believe that deliberate discomfort actually trains in a young man courage, right? Putting himself in this physical arena and testing his body physically actually makes a person more courageous. These men on this bridge pressed forward with gunfire bearing down on them because they had been trained to be courageous. They had been trained to move forward no matter what the cost. When someone's in trouble, will you maybe be able to find and conjure up some form of courage with no training? Maybe. But I promise you that if you take part in the training, the courage will come about more natural. Now, here's another interesting thing, right? Courage is not like one of these attributes that I think has to constantly be trained to be able to maintain, right? Because you have a bunch of old codgers, man, those old school in their 70s and 80s, and they haven't done anything physical in a long time, but growing up, they were in war, or they fought, or they had done something physical to build up inside of them courage, and they haven't done something for 25 years, but they would die in the blink of an eye, right? If they had to, for what was right and noble, right? So that is something interesting about courage. I'll leave you this week is, how are you developing courage in your life? Are you just sitting there thinking, well, maybe I'll be able to conjure it up if I find myself in a situation where I need to be able to find it? I personally would not go that route because there's a good chance you're not going to be able to do that, and someone else is going to suffer for your inability of being able to be courageous. So I would highly encourage all of us this week to ask ourselves, how are we developing courage in our life? I love you guys. See you in the next video.